What's good, my people? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing some plyometric training. I'm going to show you some exercises that you can do at home with little to no equipment, and any equipment that you do need is probably going to be around the house somewhere, so make sure you're ready to be innovative as possible. So plyometrics, often known as jump training, is obviously explosive movements that are going to help you to get faster, stronger and more powerful overall. So depending whether you play sport or you just, want to beat your child in a race or anything like that, I'm going to show you how you can use plyometrics to your advantage. So I've literally played sport all my life. I've been playing football since the age of how many, whatever age. So I'm very used to plyometrics training. I know how to incorporate it very well. So let's get started. All right, people, so we're going to get started with the first exercise, which is going to be squat jumps or jumping squats, however you want to call them. The goal of plyometrics is to be as explosive as possible. We're not going for reps here. We want to make sure that the form is clean, and then we can be explosive as possible in the movement. So usually I would say no more than 5 reps, but if you want an extra challenge, you can go for 10. But we're focusing on being explosive as possible, so when we do come into the movement, and then we rest. So it's trying to mimic those game-like explosive actions that you might have to perform. So let's play basketball, soccer, American football, anything that involves jumping. We're just trying to mimic those actions as lifelike as possible. Now, once you start doing these and it becomes, relatively easy and you want to progress, you can grab some weights and you can perform them with weights. So for example, now you would just perform the same action with weights. Now don't overdo the weights. Little to lightweight is perfect, because in a game you're not going to be carrying around weights, so that little extra added load is going to be more than enough. But you still want to make sure that you're being as explosive as possible and that the form is good. And with most plyometric exercise, we're trying to minimize contact with the ground. So in between each rep, let's say we're here, we're not coming here and resting. No, we want to minimize that contact. So once we come here, as soon as you find that safe position down the bottom, it's another explosion all the way up. So the next exercise is going to be the jumping lunge. Now, similar to the squat, we want to make sure we're being as explosive as possible. In many sports, we're going to be in this sort of position, whether we're taking off running, we're turning, we're sprinting forward, anything like that. So again, we're focusing on being very explosive. Now this turf is a little slanted, so it is a little bit awkward for me, but let me see if I can show you in the other direction. When we get here, you kind of want to feel that tension there before you take off, and then we're sticking the landing on the other side again. Don't do too many reps, but just make sure that you're minimizing that ground contact. So again, wherever you feel most comfortable with your arms, it's about getting as high as possible. So once you get the height, then you can add the speed in, and that's going to make you more powerful. So when we're here, the goal is to get high, stick the landing. Make sure you stick the landing. That's going to help you to find your balance, work your core and everything in the lower extremities. Majority of the exercises are going to really work the quads, the hammies, the glutes, the calves, everything in the lower region of the body, even the core to some respect. So you have to make sure that you're really focusing on those muscles in order to get more powerful, stronger and everything else involved. So to progress from the jumping lunges, we're going to do a jumping elevated split squat. So anyone who's done split squats, you know that you set your feet up in this position here. I'll just show you with the other leg as well. One leg back here, one leg in front, and obviously we're going to be working on lowering phase, then explode back up. Now that is a little bit high, so I am going to try and move this down. You don't want it too high, because you still want to be able to activate that explosive movement. So if it's here as well, you still want to be able to activate that explosive movement. So you want to be here, you want to be the tension in your quads and glutes so that you can explode up. Now you can literally use anything. You don't have to have this set up here. You could grab a bench or a chair, use your sofa, couch, a sibling, I'm joking. You set yourself up on the edge of the bench like that. You just want to make sure that you're able to get low enough, and then we're exploding back up and we're sticking the landing. So same thing on the other side. Really build up that potential strength there, and then we're sticking the landing. Ouch, my knee, that hurt. However, again, the goal is not to do a ridiculous amount of reps. We just want to make sure that we're explosive in the movement. Again, a good 4 or 5 reps, maybe even 3 in some cases, but we're just working on that unilateral leg strength and exploding up, being powerful, because more time in sport, you're going to be doing something off of one leg. You very rarely are using 2 legs. It's more so, I'm here, I'm using this leg to explode off of, or maybe I'm here, I'm using that leg to jump off of. So again, with these, you want to make sure that it's almost game realistic or event realistic. So your arms matter, your upper body matters, everything matters. Not just about the legs, it's about everything else involved. So if you were practicing in sport, where would you place your arms? And then the landing, make sure you're sticking the landing, making sure that you're working on the ankle control, ankle stability, all the other stuff. But that is another exercise that you can do a little bit more on the intermediate side. So see how you get on with the jumping lunges first, and then you can move on to the elevated split squats. So this is probably the most familiar plyometric exercise, which is going to be box jumps, but obviously we don't have a box, we're just using a bench. See, I'm just using some bricks and a bench. Again, if you can find a high chair, a high bench, anything, even a sofa to jump up on, it's perfect. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to work on being explosive and sticking the landing. So for example, make sure my head don't hit that. We just want to make sure we're being explosive, stick, come up. It's about being explosive as possible. Now obviously if you have the option to make this higher and higher, which I probably would if I added some more bricks, but I'm not going to do for the purpose of the video. However, we're making sure that we're in that starting position, again building up that potential power in our legs, and then as we explode up, we want to make sure it's as explosive as possible. Now obviously if the bench was higher, we'd have to tuck our knees a little bit more, which is another part which is very essential. But if we're just focusing on these, nice squat position, up, stick, come up. And that's another one that you can do. Again, very game realistic, or whatever your event is, very realistic, going to help you to build that explosive power. Again, you can add weight, hold some dumbbells in your hands, make sure your surface that you're going to jump on is sturdy, is secure. As you can see, I put a weight plate on this just in case anything happens, so make sure safety is always taken into consideration, and perform these very easily. Even if you found a wall, you know, a wall at a reasonable height, you could practice it on there as well. Now if you don't have a very high surface for you to execute the box jumps, what you can do is some kneeling pop-ups. So for example, if you find a surface that's a reasonable height but too low for you to really, you know, exert yourself, what you can do is some kneeling pop-ups. So you want to find something comfortable to put your knees on, or if you can do it, if you want to do it raw with no knees, I mean with no mat, it's up to you. So we're going to start in this position here, toes driving into the ground, and we're going to pop up, and then we're going to jump onto the bench. All explosive movements, make sure your arms are involved as well. So it's literally going to be pop, pop, up. Obviously this bench is a little low for me, I probably could go a little bit higher, probably didn't have to take the bricks out, but just so you guys can understand the movement, reset, pop, pop, like that. And we're just making sure that when we bring our feet from under us, we stick the landing, then we're up. If you can't bring your toes, that's okay, but we just want to make sure that we're balanced when we're doing the next jump in order to get the most out of the exercise. So it's pop, pop, up. Simple as that. And make sure both movements are explosive and it's a quality movement that you can do. Kneeling pop-ups. Again, maybe you're not quite ready for the double movement, you can just work on here like that if you don't have a bench as well. So just show you one more time, you can work on that, and then explosive as well. So that's another option that you can do for those plyometric gains. So next up, we're going to be doing some depth jumps, or depth jumps, sorry, not depth, depth. So what you're going to do is you're going to bring yourself up onto the bench. We're going to lower ourselves down, and then we're going to explode up. So you want to make sure that you have something that you're going to be able to spring off on the floor. It might be a little bit harsh going straight onto a hard concrete surface or a wooden surface. So if you can find a mat or something of that nature, then you can perform these. Now, your height of your platform doesn't actually need to be even this high at all. So even if you have a platform which is slightly lower, we're just working on, I'm just cautious of my head here, we're just working on that lowering phase, and then as as your foot touches the ground or your toe touches the ground, we're trying to minimize ground contact. So you need to explode up as hard as you can and as high as you can. So I'll just show you again. Lower yourself slowly, and then it's an explosion up. Now that is really going to help with reactivity, speed, and obviously power in the calves and basically the lower legs. Now we're going to literally move into the opposite of that. So we're going to be jumping back onto the bench, but it's going to be a single leg hop. So you're going to come on one leg. You can lower yourself down a little bit, but it's literally going to be a hop onto the bench. Obviously find your balance, but it's a hop onto the bench, and you see your ankle and everything else is going to be working to help you find that balance. So you're going to have to use your core, you're going to have to be working on your ankle mobility, your ankle strength as well, knees involved, everything, hips, everything. So with these, again, it's trying to be as explosive as possible, and then you're sticking the landing. Now if you're having trouble with the landing coming onto the bench, you may have to dip a little bit lower. So you might have to let your knees take a bit more of the brace, so for example, and then come up. Naturally you should be doing that anyway. Obviously if it's too low, you don't really have to brace as much, but naturally you do want to find your sticking point. Let the quads really get some isometric in there as well. And again, don't have to do too many at once, but you just want to do a decent amount so that you can work on those explosive unilateral strengths. Now the next exercise we're going to be doing is called ice skaters, and literally you can imagine someone skating around, an ice rink. However, so we're going to start on one side, and it's going to be about unilateral leg strength. Just make sure I'm in the frame. Unilateral leg strength, and we're just going to explode to the side, stick the landing, stick the landing. Again, that's going to help with stability, power, strength, and speed. So it's not about how many you do. We want to make sure that we're correctly set up, and then we stick the landing. Now this is working in a different plane. Most things that we've done has either been forwards or backwards, but that lateral movement as well is very, very important. So if you can imagine in your sport, you need to dart to a spot very quickly. You're over there, you can land it, you're ready, you can take the force, everything else. So that is another exercise that you can do. Again, we're trying to make sure that we're getting the maximum amount of spring, and then we stick the landing. We want to make sure that we're getting ourselves really across, and it's going to benefit you in the long run. And so again, with this movement, and similar to the other ones, if you do find that you're struggling to find your balance, you might just need to bend a little bit more. So when you're coming here, when you land here, bend. Your arms are very important as well to help you find that sticking point, and your core. You need to make sure that you're bracing your core as well. Now the thing is with this is that you may have to reduce the distance for you to understand the movement first. Your body has to get used to the movement if you've never done it before. So if you start off a little bit smaller, just for you to work on that stick in the landing, that's fine as well. But gradually over time, we want to increase the distance that we're jumping. And those are all the plyometric exercises that I have for you today, guys. Again, very accessible, very easy, little to no equipment involved. You could literally go to your local park and perform nearly all of these movements. You don't need weight, especially if you're a beginner. If you're just starting out, just focus on getting explosive with your body weight. If you're a little bit more veteran in terms of sports and events, you may have to do them with some form of weight, whether that be a weight vest, dumbbells, even a barbell for some of the movements. That is fine. However, we're just working on getting explosive. That way we can perform our absolute best in our sport, event, whatever it is, fighting your siblings. I don't know what reason you want to do plyometrics for. However, just make sure that you keep the reps low, the execution very high, and you're working on that explosive power rather than the amount of reps that you're doing. It's about quality rather than quantity, and you'll reap the rewards in the end. But I hope you enjoy watching. Make sure you like, you comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll catch you on the next one. I'm out. Peace.